Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. For today's midweek meta deck, we are playing a very spicy one from PunihshingWaterfalls, where they managed to split the finals of a legacy challenge with this pretty exciting brew. So let's get right into this one. This is an Ajani deck, so this makes a cat when it comes in. When any of your cats die, you flip it, you can grow all your cats, you can make a cat. And for the purposes of our deck, we're not going to be doing the extra part of that when you make the cat, where you get to ping some damage. And then you can -4, each opponent choose an artifact, creature, enchantment, and planeswalker from among the non-land permanents they control, then sacrifices the rest. So you get to cataclysm your opponent pretty much. So that's pretty cool. And 3/3 worth of power and toughness for 2 mana isn't the worst either, but then obviously it snowballs and does a whole bunch of other stuff. So we are running another cat to go with it. Here is another card from Modern Horizons. This is Ocelot Pride, a 1 mana, 1/1 first strike lifelink. It has Ascend, so if you have 10 or more permanents, you get the City's Blessing. So at the beginning of your end step, if you gain life this turn, create a 1/1 white cat creature token. If you have the City's Blessing, for each token you control that entered this turn, create a copy of it. So if you've got lots of permanents, you get way more permanents. So this is just going to give us loads more cats to make the Ajani work. And we're also pairing this with another new card in Guide of Souls. 1 mana, 1/2. Whenever another creature you control enters, gain 1 life and get 1 energy. And then whenever you attack, you may pay 3 energy, put 2+1/+1 counters and a flying counter on an attacking creature, and it becomes an angel. So you can use this to buff our stuff, but it's also going to be gaining us some life. So it's kind of like Soul Warden, but better for the most part. It only matches our own creatures for life. It's still pretty good here. So this is going to give us the life gain to make the Ocelot Pride really pop off, is the plan here. We've got some generically good blue stuff. So we've got Brainstorms and Ponders, Daze and Force of Will, so we can play like a nice tempo-y game, find the cards we need. We've got some removal and Source to Plowshares and Prismatic Ending. We've got Psychic Frog because it's, in my opinion, the best creature in Legacy and one of the best creatures ever printed, to be honest. So we might as well round this in. We're basically splashing just for this Psychic Frog. Card is good. We've got some Tamiyo. This can draw some extra cards. It can just do some pretty tasty Tamiyo things. And again, we can flip and have 2 Planeswalkers roll in and do quite a lot of work that way. And there's a couple of Geist of Saint Traft here, which is a thing that's going to create some creatures for us to get some Guide of Soul stuff. And if we give this flying, we've got an evasive threat that our opponent can't really deal with that hits very hard. Now, PunihshingWaterfalls, who played this deck, they said that they would just cut the Geist of Saint Traft. But we're playing the exact list as it was in tournament, so here we are. Mana-wise, we got 4 Wastelands because we're doing a bit of a tempo-y thing here. We got a couple of Tundras, a couple of Underground Seas. No Scrubland here. We just got 1 Plains and 1 Island as our basics, and 1 Meticulous Archive. We are clearly a blue-white deck that is just splashing for Frog. Sideboard-wise, we can exile some black permanents, or red permanents. Mostly going to be black permanents, though. Consign to Memory to deal with some Eldrazi stuff. Bit of Graveyard Hate. This also is Graveyard Hate whilst hitting on things like Green Sun Zenith and Natural Order. Bit of stuff against Stormy style decks or spell-based combos. Stony Silence to knock down a bunch of artifact decks. There's various ones, whether it's Mystic Forge or just the Epic Storm style. A couple of Harmony of the Seas, because sometimes having these sorts of moon effects are really nice. Lavinia, it's going to hate on a lot of combo decks and all sorts. And then a little bit more removal. And then there's this funny one, Abiding Grace. 3 mana enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, choose 1. You gain 1 life or return that creature with mana value 1 from your graveyard to the battlefield. So in a grindy matchup where our opponent is playing non-exile removal, we can board this in, and this can just be a thing that keeps getting back these 1-drops. So like Sultai control style things, we can then just keep getting them back. Obviously against white control, they're just going to exile our creatures. It's not going to be useful. But it's an interesting card that I haven't see a lot of play. So I'm excited to see how it goes. And with that, I think we're ready to play. So like and subscribe, and let's make some pussycats. Alright, we are into our first game. This is not a hand we can keep, so it's going back. Alright, this is one we can keep. We need to make decisions as to what goes back. I think the Geist is probably not where I want to be here. So, Guide of Souls is better the earlier you get it down, because you're going to get more triggers and more life out of it. But is it better than playing a Tamiyo? Well, I suppose we're going to find out. And that's something, isn't it? So let's crack this. We can play on basics for now. So I think we're just going to go and get basic planes and jam this little Guide of Souls. If our opponent wants to Daze this, then sure. It means our Tamiyo, which is individually on its own a better card, I would say, is more likely to resolve because we can play it through a Daze. Alright, so we did get dazed on the Guide of Souls, and our opponent has replayed this island. So we're going to play this Tamiyo around a Daze, and then next time we can play the Psychic Frog around a Daze. Force of Will. Yep, so our opponent's expending a lot of their resources to keep our creatures down, and then we're about to follow up with the best creature in our deck. Nice Wasteland that we don't have to worry about. So I could try this Ajani. How I feel about that one. Or I could just try and play the frog, which is the most powerful thing in our hand. I think we're just going to play the most powerful thing we can play. So we did a good job at weeding out our opponent's counter magic. There's another Wasteland. Blue mana. So we could be seeing something like a Borrower on our frog. I'm happy to just take the 1 damage here. So we do have a Meticulous Archive. But it does become slightly awkward. I will just deploy more threat to the board. Right, so we've got ourselves a Cat Warrior. We can still get the Meticulous Archive to get a bit of surveil action going. It will get eaten by a Wasteland, but I can live with that. Here's what our opponent is. I'm kind of getting like Dreadnought vibes from our opponent. Right, they're blowing up our land in response to the surveil. Swords to Plowshares. Like, that's the sort of thing that we might want if we're expecting our opponent to be... They're going to be some kind of tempo-y style deck with what we're seeing here. Because you don't really play Daze in control decks. You get hybrid decks that can play Daze in them as well, like the Sultai deck. Okay. Well, I would like to see how the Ocelot works here. So I suppose we'll put them in this order. Go to attacks. Get some sweet damages in. So do we need to play out this Ocelot Pride? Or do we want to hold it and just have some more options available to us moving forward if, like, we get our board Wrath? Are we likely to get our board Wrath, or do we just need to end the game as quickly as possible? Or we just sit on what we've got in play right now? Like, we're very far ahead. We've got a Brainstorm on top, which is certainly going to be better than a random card. All right, our opponent's packing it up. We haven't seen an additional colour from our opponent. So we know they're blue, Daze, Wasteland, Brainstorm type stuff. So the fact they've got a basic island makes me think maybe we're looking more towards Dreadnought. But I think we're going to plan for just, you know, generic-y tempo style deck rather than specifically indexing into that. So March of Otherworldly Light is good here. And the rest of it isn't really necessary. Like, there's arguments for bringing some of these cards in, but I don't think they're worth it. What do I think about Geist of St. Traft? I'm not convinced it's a particularly good card in this day and age. So I think we can board one of them out and just have another piece of removal. And just go like this and see how it... So Delta decks sometimes have a single basic island in. So it could just be like a sort of Delver deck. Or we could be looking at a Dreadnought deck, which would make more sense because our opponent wasn't casting anything. So maybe that's why they weren't casting anything. They were just looking for their white source or whatever. Or they couldn't string together the pieces they need, like the Stifle and the Dreadnought. Alright, so our opening hand for game 2 is a little bit awkward. Because it's going to want us to get a Tundra, so we can cast our Guide of Souls and our Ponder. We could just get a basic island and cast a Ponder, looking for another land. We would need to find a white source. We do have a lot of very powerful cards. I think I'm going to keep it. We're on the draw, so we get another card as well. Right, Misty Rainforest. A basic island again, and a Ponder. Okay. Our opponent knows exactly what we're playing because they've already played against it before. I imagine there's a few people interested in playing this deck since it's something unusual, which isn't that common in this current metagame. Alright, we have to get this to protect our basics, to protect our lands from Wasteland by getting a basic. There is a land that gets us a thing we require. I will put this... Do I want more Force of Wills? I do want all of these cards, I suppose. We don't have a scrubland to fetch, so these Psychic Frogs are probably just getting pitched unless we just abandon the Guide of Souls. I think I would rather have a Ponder here, so I'm going to put Ponder on top and then the Marsh Flats. So we'll draw the Marsh Flats, so next turn that we can go and get a white source if we want to, or we can go and get the Guide of Souls. We can, or you can, sorry, get the land and just play the Psychic Frog and just try and ride that to victory. If we see what our opponent's running, it might give us a little bit more of an idea. Actually, these threats is going to be... Well, obviously, Psychic Frog is going to be the better threat. But is it going to be okay to go all in on that by ditching effectively our only land? It's also doing it into a Daze. It's kind of awkward. Alright, so I am definitely thinking our opponent is on Dreadnought now. I would like to ponder. Do I want this Force of Will on top? Or would I like to shuffle first? I think I will shuffle first. I haven't seen a Stifle out of our opponent yet. But it's something that's now on my radar. I think I am going to do it like this. Now, these frogs will eventually be castable. We're pondering to find more land. Yep, there's some more land. So we probably want the Daze to hand so that we at least have that as a thing that we can leverage. And if we're leveraging that, we probably want to be able to cast Ajani next turn. Which means maybe we bury the Flooded Strand. We'll get around to the Flooded Strand in a bit. Because if we use this Daze, obviously we can't play 2 lands anyway. Let's just play this. So if we have to use our Daze, we at least get to play the card on top. Whereas if we Daze on this board, we don't get to cast a Psychic Frog because of our basic. Now, yes, we could just try and Force of Will instead, but I think if we get an option for a Daze, we should use it. It's going to be a Plow, an Ending. Do I care enough about this one? I don't think so. We have just a more powerful follow-up. Just cast the Ajani. I feel like it's going to be difficult for us to flip this Ajani against our white opponent here, because our creatures are just going to get exiled instead. Right, we're seeing a cracked fetch down. We're either going to see like a Doorkeeper Thrall, a Dress Down, or just a Meticulous Archive here. Alright, we're going to be a Dress Down. I think I'll fight over this Dress Down. What would you like to expend? Alright, it's just gone. Fighting over the Dress Down because they might have multiple creatures, but also they get to cantrip off the Dress Down, so we already feel like we're behind if they've got the Dress Down resolved. I do like the Dreadnought deck quite a lot though. It's a lot of fun. And you know, it's pretty strong. It's just playing good cards and has like a nice big fat creature you can slap down and smash people around with. Alright, we've got Brainstorm, no fetch down to follow up. So our opponent is Brainstorm locked over there. Intriguing. We could see a Doorkeeper Thrall here, but it would just trade with our Cat Warrior. Can live with that. Right, let's go and get Underground Sea here. Cast a Psychic Frog. We can't cast a Psychic Frog. What am I doing? We need to wait another turn for that. That was just a bit of a misplay there. Because now we're exposed to the Wasteland. Forgot about our planes temporarily there. We should have left our fetch down uncracked so we can't be Wastelanded. A Doorkeeper Thrall. Another Dress Down. Say no to dress downs, I think. We can pay for a Daze. Alright. Now, if we had some removal, we could maybe think about things differently because we could answer the Dreadnought or the Null Drifter. But if our opponent wastelands us this turn and punishes us for that misplay, that's going to be pretty huge. But they didn't play a land after they Brainstorm, so we should be okay on that front. It's still a misplay. It's left uncracked. A land. Let's bash. Now we also get to play it around a Daze. And our opponent demonstrated they didn't have a Daze before because there was a nice situation where they could have Dazed to let their Dress Down through. Black, blue. Let's make the frog. Alright. A Doorkeeper Thrall. Let's say no to Doorkeeper Thrall. We got a Spell Pierce here. That sort of jam. Or are we looking for like a Brainstorm? Right. A Daze. We can pay for this Daze. Probably means they have another one. But it does mean we're going to find a... Not a Null Drifter here. It's going to be a Dreadnought. How many Dreadnoughts? Who's to say? So Doorkeeper Thrall has quite a lot of text against what our deck does. Like with the Soul Warden guy and obviously Ajani as well. So we're going to see a Dreadnought here. Alright, we're getting a Plow on our guy. And a Dreadnought to follow up? It is a Dreadnought, sure. We do have a Prismatic Ending in our deck. And we know our opponent's got an island, so they can't Force of Will something here. Alright, we can throw a Cat Warrior under the bus. I think we might need cards to pitch here. That's why I didn't play the Meticulous Archive. But maybe that's wrong and we're supposed to use the Meticulous Archive to try and dig to a Plow or an Ending. Let's get ourselves a Planeswalker. Soak up 1 damage here. So we can pump cats, we can make cats. We can Cataclysm, which doesn't really help here. Alright, here is a Null Drifter. So our opponent has multiple threats now. Can jump and try and block the Null Drifter next turn. A Brainstorm. Well, that is the sort of card that can help us out of a situation like this. None of these cards do that, though. So I guess we put the Wasteland. No, we put the Underground Sea and then the Wasteland. We play the Archive. Mill off one of these cards. Cast a Brainstorm. This is not the one, is it? So, First Strike and Lifelink. Is that going to help us out here? Not really. So we can get... So this isn't going to be able to trigger its lifelink anyway. We can make a cat. So we currently have, at most, 4 toughness. Which is not enough here. So I think we all concede that game. Alright, is there anything we want to do differently here? I don't think so. Like, Consign to Memory can counter specifically Dreadnought, but then doesn't do much about anything else. You know, we've got 6 answers to the Dreadnought as well as counter magic. So I think we are in a fine spot and we should just... resubmit. I guess we could board out a Wasteland for a Geist of St. Traft, just have another threat. But that doesn't feel incredible. Maybe we're supposed to do that, just have one less Wasteland. Okay, I guess we keep this. Psychic Frog is a very powerful Magic the Gathering card. And we can just send it turn after turn. Now, these Wastelands in our hand are pretty bad. We're going to need a Brainstorm to shuffle them, or we can just pump them into the Frog and get a bit more damage going. Basic Island. Tundra. I think I want to play this Guide of Souls out, and we're just going to play around Daze. Our opponent's opener feels pretty Daze likely. The way that they've just got this island and you're just sitting on it. We could have a Stifle as well. Right, a Wasteland. We lose our Tundra here. We don't get to play around Daze. But because we don't know how long our Underground Sea is going to be around for either, I think we just want to get this guy. Because if this comes into play and gets to do its thing, then we just run away with the game. Alright, we're going to see maybe a Brainstorm and a Daze here. That takes our opponent a bit further away from casting any monsters though. We do have an answer for the cheap monster. So that's good. We can handle the non-Null Drifter threats. Like the Dreadnought and stuff. But we can't handle the Null Drifter just yet. Right, we're going to lose our only black source. Yep. The Guide of Souls that we can't cast. Right, we'll play this stinky Wasteland. We don't have energy to pay because we need to play some creatures. So we might be getting done by our mana base here. See that island again? There it is. Got Ponder for us, or are we just passing? Right, so we might be looking at some sort of Stifle. And a Ajani that we can't play. I don't really want this Wasteland. I think I'm going to leave it in hand. We've already got one in play, so if they do play a land, we can grab it. But it also is just going to be a thing that allows us to play around Daze. Maybe we could have taken this game slower. Our opponent had to have the double Wasteland and the Daze to punish us for that. And they had it. And it's not entirely impossible they would have it. But we could have just played a Wasteland out the previous turn, and then we play the Underground Sea so we can play the Frog around a Daze. But we need to find a white mana source here. And we can really start snowballing with these Guides of Souls. And a Ponder to shuffle away that Brainstorm. There we go. We get to keep rumbling with the almighty Guide of Souls. Wow, we found a white source. That's the one. Get this unwastelandable white source. Plays Guide of Souls. Get some energy. And a little bit of life. The energy is displayed over here. We can't pump our guy yet. But next turn we play the Ajani. We gain 4 energy. Not too shabby. We have an answer for Dreadnought. We don't have an answer for Null Drifter yet. We're going to see a Plow or an Ending here. Feels like a pending the amount of time it's taken to put it in. Yeah, there it is. Sure. Not too bothered by that. That means it's not removal being pointed out as slightly better threats. The Ocelot Pride feels pretty strong here. Tap for 1. Pride in. And then we can give this flying next turn because we play the Ajani pre-combat. Right, so we get a little bit of life. We go to our end step. We get ourselves a 1-1. We get a bit more life. And our opponent can dress down and try and play something scary and large. Just to dismember. Okay, that's not too bad. I would have liked to have had the cat ticking off, but it is what it is. Absorbs the Plowshares on our poor little defenseless Guide of Souls. A Geist of St. Traft. That's worth paying around a Daze, I think. How do you feel about Geist of St. Traft? This is the Force of Will, pitching a Daze. Okay, we're going to see the end of turn. Nope, no dress down. Maybe our just really terrible creatures are going to beat all the way down here. Triumph of St. Catherine. Yeah, we need to find an answer to that one, don't we? Although we can play the Ajani and block with our cat. And then that gets us into the flip side of this. We can just wall this for an indefinite amount of time. Let's play the Ajani. Fight over this one? No, they don't. Right, I will also now play the Psychic Frog around a Daze as well. Right, we're in. I'm not going to tap that cat token. I think it's better on blocks. Ponder is pretty solid from our opponent. Another beautiful plains. Plow on the Frog. Goodbye, Frog. Right, we're going to have to do it with our little Ajani here. They want the guaranteed 5 life. And they do not. What have we got here? A Daze is unlikely to be helpful. We attack with a 2-1 Cat Warrior. They gain 5 life. Or they take 2. And then we flip our Ajani. I'm willing to take that. Right, I'm going to take the block. So we get ourselves an Ajani. And then we can start pumping out cats. Our opponent is much more likely to just start attacking us as well now. A Doorkeeper Thrall. I will take this action on the Daze while we have it, because our opponent's last card is quite likely to be something that goes with it, because they've been sandbagging this card for a little while. Our opponent's going to attack either us or Ajani for 5. Attacking the Ajani. Block. Now, this is certainly not a long-term situation that favours us, because our opponent's going to gain 5 every turn. And Marsh Flats. This finds us a Surveil land, so I think that's worth playing. Let's make a cat. I think we need to keep them both so we can just keep our Ajani alive. We could attack and hit our opponent for 2, but then what happens? They have a single removal spell, we lose our Ajani, and we're just left with nothing. Yep. So all that chip damage we did is all gone now, and our opponent is at 22 life. Let's go and get ourselves a Surveil land. Our opponent is holding up Hardcast Force of Will over there, which is something to be aware of. Tamiyo is fine. I think that helps us get out of where we're in. It's going to be a slow process. Our opponent's going to gain a lot of life, but we might be able to run it back with a bunch of cards. Right, let's Wasteland this Meticulous Archive. Right, they didn't float any mana. So that's to stop our opponent from just getting a Hardcast Force of Will. They have to pitch cast if they want it. Alright, so we have a Tamiyo. This can start drawing us an additional card every turn. A Doorkeeper Thrall. Okay. I do not want to see a Null Drifter. I can live with a Dreadnought, because we have the answer for Dreadnought. Oh no, it's the Null Drifter. Worst case scenario. We can't attack with our Tamiyo either, because they've got a massive creature. Okay. It does not feel like it's going very well for us anymore. Like, if we find a Brainstorm, we can put something together. Right, we found a hot bag of nothing. So what's the exact text on this? Each opponent chooses an artifact, a creature, an enchantment, and a planeswalker. They're still left with all their lands, so they would lose one of these. But if we plus this gets bigger. We block here. This blocks here. We still lose to this. Yikes. I'm not liking the spot we're in. Do I want to attack with the Tamiyo just to get a clue? Is that worth throwing away the Tamiyo, just turning it into a 3-mana cycle? I don't think it is. We have a Wasteland that can be pitched to the Null Drifter, but if we can't draw Source to Plowshares in a matchup where our opponent's playing 1 or 2 big creatures, then we're going to lose, and that's the situation we're in. We're going to see a Ponder here, or a Brainstorm. Yep, wouldn't mind one of those myself. So if you look at this matchup, we haven't drawn any cantrips, and our opponent has drawn 5 cantrips, which is normally a pretty good way of working out how a blue matchup is going. Right, so we're going to get backed by a bunch of these guys. I assume it's just the Null Drifter and the Triumph. And that's coming at the Ajani. This is coming at us. So they're both coming at Ajani, right? I guess what we could have been doing earlier... I guess, no, while they're attacking Ajani, we didn't really have much choice but to spam out tokens, did we? What are we going to see here? Another guy. I guess we probably should have tried to remove the Doorkeeper Thrall last turn. Yeah, because now they just get to add another Null Drifter to the board. I don't believe we have any way of coming back from this unless we just draw runner plows. Yeah, not removing that Null Drifter, the Doorkeeper Thrall was definitely an error on our part there. But we are so far behind. I'm kind of mentally tapped out of this one already. Yeah, this isn't going to do anything for us here. I think we can call that a day. Yeah, we kind of got a little bit punked there. We had a little bit of trouble with our mana. Like the double Wasteland Daze was pretty good. But let's go on to the next round. Our mana does not work, so we're going to send this one back for this round. Geist of St. Traft. What a guy. I guess we keep this one. We throw back one of our lands. We're probably playing out on our Flooded Strand first. If our opponent's like a combo matchup, then they just go and destroy us. So be it. But otherwise, we've got some interesting tools here. Snow-covered island into a ponder. Snow-covered island. We're looking at some sort of Ice Fang deck, or is it just because they like the snow-covered islands, or are they running multiple land types for something like a Field of the Dead, which you sometimes see in some Bank Shells. Check this out so we at least have access to a Daze if we want it. It also means that we can cast the Psychic Frog on turn 2 if we want to, and protect it with a Daze on the way in. A lot of mana you get off this Flooded Strand. Are you a blue-white control deck? Right, you're some sort of Esper deck. Psychic Frog. I don't really want to have to deal with this Psychic Frog, but do I want to set myself back a mana? I don't think so. I want to set myself back a mana. Meticulous Archive here. Untap and then plow this around a Daze with our own Daze backup. Marsh Flats. Are we going to want another land? Possibly. I think I'm going to leave this on top because if we get Wasteland in, it's really bad for us here. So I want to plow. I think we get a Flooded Strand in here. Alright. So next time we can play the Psychic Frog around a Daze with our own Daze backup unless we have to fire off this Daze. We can also bounce our Meticulous Archive for a little bit of extra value later on. We're going to see here. Cantrip. Sure, that's fine. I imagine our opponent has some amount of source Plowshares in their deck that will be very much aimed at our Psychic Frog. We don't have another Surveil land to find, so there's no point cracking this Flooded Strand on our opponent's turn. They did not shuffle off their Ponder. Oh, they have an Urza's Saga. That was unexpected. Esper with an Urza's Saga. That's a lot of stuff, isn't it? Right, I think I play this Marsh Flats out. Let's crack this. I don't think we have to look for a Wasteland just yet. I think we can just go and get our Frog, who invalidates a lot of our opponent's plays. Wins combat. That's what Psychic Frog does. Okay, so we can do an emergency Brainstorm if something pops off that we have to do. You can see a Plow end step. We can't Daze this. We could Brainstorm looking for something, but I think we're just going to try and play the Geist. There's a Saga, ticking away. They're probably just going to be making constructs with this. Now I could Brainstorm in the end step. Or I could just hold on to this and play the Geist. Psychic Frog. Is Psychic Frog better than the Geist? I think we all know the answer to that question. We could Brainstorm first. This way if we find a Wasteland, we can do Psychic Frog and Wasteland stuff. We didn't find a Wasteland. So how are we going to order these? We could play the Frog and the Tamiyo whilst having a Daze. We probably want to play a land so we can play around a Daze. But we can put one land on top and then bury something else underneath it. Probably want to play the Geist next turn. Is it the Ponder? I guess we put land and then a Ponder is probably fine too. Put land and then the Ponder. And we can play the Tundra. We can crack our Marsh Flats. Or we could try and Ponder looking for an answer to there's a Saga. I don't think we have to do that. Right, so we'll play this out. And I will play this Tamiyo into a potential Daze, I think. I think we just get Underground Sea here. Keep our colours unwaste-offable. Urza's Saga, Scrubland. Kind of an interesting selection of things going off here. Alright, so it's a Force of Will. And it's the Tamiyo they fear more than the Psychic Frog. That is kind of wild to me. Alright, they're going to make a guy. What's going to come out of their Urza's Saga, though? Is it going to be, like, Boots of smashing me really quickly? Or is it going to be, like, the Lifelink equipment Shadow Spear? I guess we're about to find out. So if our opponent taps out, we can just... Okay, it's a Soul Guide Lantern. Taking out a Tamiyo. Okay. So if our opponent attacks here, we are risking... If we pitch all of our cards, we're risking our opponent just having a Plow. It's coming in. Our opponent's got 2 cards in hand. If one of them is a Plow, that's obviously terrible news for us. I think we just have to take the 3 here. As annoying as that is for us. A Prismatic Ending. That's not too shabby, is it? So we can get rid of this construct. That way we do not have to pay cards from our graveyard. Right, we can attack. This Daze is relatively likely to be live if our opponent does anything this turn. Alright, they're just letting us hit with the Frog. That's obviously excellent news for us. A Plow. Do I want the Plow? Do I want this Geist? I kind of want to play the Geist. They didn't Daze last turn, so I don't think they've got the Daze. Just jam this Geist. Right, we're going to see a spell here. And we're going to Daze something. And we're going to have a good time. An Underground Sea. For a Brainstorm. I say no to this Brainstorm. The Daze is probably not getting much better. Alright. You can play this Meticulous Archive and get a Surveil off. I think that's slightly better than leaving it for the Frog. Ajani. Do I like the Ajani? Like, it's more pressure. We've got removal. I don't mind having a bit more pressure. And that's fine. Now, if our opponent keeps a construct back, we can plow it and then just have our absolute way with this game. They're probably going to be in a situation where they need to cycle their Soul Guide Lantern for a card soon. Cryptic Coat. Alright, so our opponent is a Stoneblade deck. Sure, you have a 2-2 unblockable. That is... Well, it's a 3-2 unblockable, actually, but that is irritating. For sure. But we still just get to Psychic Frog unless our opponent cracks a lantern. Right, we get to go to our turn here, which means we get to jump with the frog. It doesn't matter what we exile here, does it? Because of the way our deck's configured. I'll just take my 1. I think that's perfectly reasonable. Just get an extra card. That's kind of the metric this game is probably going to be won and lost on. Ocelot Pride, you say? Alright, Ajani. In you come. Let's make a cat. Everybody wants to be a cat. I don't think we want to play the Ocelot out this turn, though. Because we haven't gained any life this turn, so it's not going to make a guy. I think we're better off just holding up the plow. We can't kill this because of the Ward 2 on it. We could have just killed that instead and crunched with everything. But I don't think we need to do that. Right, our opponent didn't shuffle us a ponder. They found a Swords to Plowshares and they want to aim it at our Ajani. I think that's okay. Sending in the Cloaked Creature. Our opponent has 1 card in hand here. I think we just end step, plow this construct, and then we can beat with our whole team. And we are very far ahead on that race, because Geist is a bit clunky, but he hits pretty hard. Flooded Strand. Don't want that one. I think I would rather have 1 damage than have a card in hand for potential Brainstorm. And we got a Daze. Unlikely to be the most useful thing. Would I like an Ocelot? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Do I want Ocelot in play? Would I rather have some additional power? I think I'm just going to leave it as is. Like, the 1 damage from it being in play is going to be difficult to leverage compared to 1 damage in the frog, which is going to be very easy to leverage. A Stone Forge Mystic. I don't think dazing this makes a difference here. So what are they looking at? Batterskull to stabilize, Cauldron complete. Okay. Exile each opponent's graveyard. Okay. So we can jump our frog if we want to here. And we'll have, this will be 5 plus 4. So we have lethal if we just pitch the cards in our hand. Goodbye, Ocelot. Goodbye, Daze. What am I worried about a single island doing? Dismember, I guess. But why would you play Dismember in the main deck, in a white deck? Right, I would very much like to fly up into the sky. So this is 9 damage in the air. Alright. Stoneblade, you say. This is another matchup where the Might of the Body Light looks pretty good. And I think the Harbinger of the Seas actually look good because we've seen the Urza Sagas as well as like a mana base that could be a little bit clunky at times. So I think it's worth bringing in the Harbinger of the Seas. I think the Geist of St. Traft. Do I think the Geist of St. Traft is good here? They're always going to have these ground pounders that get in the way. I think we're going to cut these for these 3 drops. And then probably just get rid of one of these Ajani. They don't feel very good. Would I prefer a Lavinia to an Ajani? Probably not. Would I prefer a Flusterstorm? Maybe to fight over some stuff. The Celestial Purges, these kill germ tokens. So if we're really worried about germ tokens, we can do that. But we already have 6 answers to germ tokens. And we can obviously counter on the way down. So I think we're okay like this. Do I think Geist is better than Ajani? Probably not. But our Ajani tokens aren't going to die. I don't think Ajani is very good, is what I'm deciding here. I'm going to play the Geists and a Lavinia. I think Lavinia is going to be better than Ajani most of the time. Like the Ocelot and the Guide of Souls, they can kind of team up and do some stuff. But this Ajani just doesn't seem great. When the person who split the finals of the Legacy Challenge with this deck, I believe they said that the Geist and the Ajani were bad. There is that. What does this hand do? We didn't see Wastelands from our opponent. I don't believe our opponent is running Wasteland if they're running 3 colours and Urza Saga. So we're on the draw. We kind of get to do this half of the deck, which might be kind of fun. And we have a plow if we need it. I'm going to give this a whirl. We prefer some more land in here, but I'm pretty sure our opponent doesn't have any Wastelands. And given what we saw in game 1, I think it'd be wild if they had Wastelands in there. Right, we found a second land anyway. Let's play Guide of Souls. See if we can actually activate his ability at some point. So we want to play like 1 creature a turn, ideally, so that we can keep our Ocelot Pride ticking. Alright, and there's a Saga. I think I'm going to cast an Ocelot and a Ponder. If we're casting the Ocelot, I want it to resolve around a Daze, so I think I cast the Ocelot first and then the Ponder. I don't want to cast a Tamiyo because this only triggers once a turn, so we want to make sure that we're getting the tokens every time. Wow, they really didn't want us to have the Ocelot. So now I'll cast a Tamiyo. Opponent hasn't shown us anything that makes me believe they can put a creature into play, so I'm going to attack with this. Little points of damage are important here. Right, and there's a Saga ticking up. Next turn we can Ponder looking for a Wasteland, or we can just dump the Frog and just reckon we can beat the Saga. Right, they're cracking now, probably to avoid any sort of stifle. Let's see what we draw. Geist of St. Traft. So this makes a 1-1. So we do beat that in combat with our Guide of Souls. I don't believe they're blocking with a 1-1 here. So now we have to make a decision. Are we pondering, looking for a Wasteland here to take this as a Saga out, or are we just going to play the Frog and just have the best thing in play? I like having the best thing in play. Maybe we can get our Guide of Souls going soon. Right, they're making 2-2, getting a thing, making a 3-3. Is it going to be the Soul Guide Lantern again? It is. Okay, that's fine. Goodbye, Ocelot Pride. Snow-covered Island. You want to bash? I'm happy to discard some cards. Yeah, I didn't think so. Force of Will is certainly a reasonable one to have here. We could just play another Frog, which then gives us the energy. I don't hate that. We've got this Force of Will we can fall back on as well. So this gets flying. We're attacking with our little friends here. We have to pitch 2 cards if we want to keep the Frog alive. If we want to keep the Frog alive, we have to pitch 2 cards. Or we could just attack and put 2 counters on it using the energy. Right, so now we have an Angel Frog attacking. Fan of Plains. Absolutely love to see that. That turns on our Plow if we need it for anything. Flooded Strand for our opponent. Stone Forge Mystic. Do we fight over this with a Force, or do we just Plow this? I think I fight with a Force. Because I don't really want the Batterskull getting involved. Or do I care about the Batterskull? This is a tough call, actually. I don't think we need any more threats, though, so... We're going to attack here. Kind of damned if they do, damned if they don't, to be honest. Right, I would like to cast a Ponder. And when this resolves, we will do our Frog business. The Guide of Souls is okay here. So I think I'll take the Guide of Souls. A Ponder for next turn. You do this now before our opponent has any option to do anything. I'd like to play... I think I'd like to keep up my unwastelandable source. I don't think our opponent has Wasteland in their deck. But just in case. Just getting more life and energy. Attacks. So the Tamiyo is going to flip once our Frogs connect. We're just sort of swimming in value over here. Okay, so we can start cracking clues at the end step as well. This is going to be an end turn. Alright, they're just cracking a Soul Guide Lantern. That's a good sign for us. It means that they are... Well, you can see they're very far behind. Don't care about their Frog. Stage of the game has gone. You can Brainstorm. So we can Plow the Frog. And if it doesn't work, we can Tamiyo, buy back the Plow, go again. We have a Meticulous Archive that we can reach for with this Marsh Flats, or we could just draw a card from the clue. Depends if we want more stuff in the graveyard. There's a Wasteland over there. Probably lose our only black source here. I think I just want a Tundra here. If we lose access to this other Frog, I don't think that's the end of the world here. I just don't want to be wasted off of multiple white spells a turn, because we might want to be doing that. Force of Will. Lovely to have you. Let's begin with the Source Plowshares on their Psychic Frog. Do we want to cast... I think I do want to cast a Brainstorm. I should have done that before I cast a Plow. If I was doing. Let's cast a Brainstorm. Some Dazes, you say. Jump the Frog. Go to attacks. You can just win the game next turn. I'm going to draw some more cards. This Psychic Frog card is not okay, is it? It's too good. Right, so then we can plus this. Deploy this. Just start cracking clue tokens. Like, we're so far ahead here. I don't know how we lose this game. Maybe our opponent has a Supreme Verdict. Sure, you can Miracle your Triumph of St. Catherine. A Dreadnought. So there's going to be a Stifle on the Dreadnought. Do we care? I don't know if we do. I don't think we do. Sure, if our opponent's tapping out for stuff. So our opponent was like an Esper Dreadnought build. Intriguing. So we play any creature here. We get extra energy as well. It's both coming at the Tamiyo, aren't they? Sure, we're not going to ultimate the Tamiyo, but she's going to remain alive. Let's draw a card. Crack this. Meticulous Archive. We're certainly putting it into the bin, but we'll see. Yeah, I could go into the bin. It's the third card for the Frog. Jump the Frog. Play a guy. Gain some energy. Go attacks. Alright, yes, we put the counters on here. We can pitch other stuff here if we need to. Yep, that was pretty decisive. A lot of that was down to Psychic Frog, which, as I've said many times before, I think is the best creature in Legacy. So, we also have the City's Blessing, so we're going to be getting a bunch of stuff too. We haven't managed to do the Guide of Soul Ocelot Pride thing yet, but hopefully we can do. Let's go to round 3. Alright, our opener is... We've got the Ocelot stuff. We're going to need to find a blue source. I've heard good things about this Guide of Souls Ocelot plan. Am I realistically keeping this? We can play the majority of our hand. And any land we find casts everything else. Go on then. If we're going to get like scammed up and stuff, I'd rather have more cards. Or our opponent's mulligan to 5, so we might be seeing something a bit more combo oriented where they're looking for a very specific set of cards rather than just a, playable lands and spells type hand. Let's go for Guide of Souls. And pass. Once Upon a Time. Okay. What level of Once Upon a Time deck are we? Springheart and Antuco. So we're probably looking at the sort of green-black Cradle Control style decks. This is a pretty messed up card, the old Springheart and Antuco. Right. Let's get our Pride on. Let's crack for 1. In our opponent's end... in our end step, we'll make a 1/1 guy, which will then trigger some more life gain. We've got ourselves a Force of Will. And we can probably pitch this Geist. I don't think that's where we want to be right now. At least we can cast Ponders. Okay, I guess we're not casting the Force of Will. Sure. Uncountable, not ones. Cradle. Springheart and Antuco, presumably. So it's just going to be on a Hierarch. No, on the Shepherd. Yeah, I can see that. A Swords to Plowshares, you say. I will cast Swords to Plowshares, targeting Allosaurus Shepherd. This is a 1/1. I will attack with these creatures. So this will deal first strike damage, which is lifelink damage as well. So we go to the end step. Pride makes us a guy. We get another thing. And now we're starting to do the thing. This is what I wanted to see how it felt. And it feels alright. White of the Reliquary. How scary is that? Not very scary when we have a plow. We use our creature removal to interact with the things that we can. Alright, there's a natural order. Say no to this, we pitch the Geist. So we use our creature removal to remove the creatures and our spell removal to remove the spells. Simple. And then we get to plow this, and then we can jam. I would like this other Guide of Souls, but we have to keep jamming here. I think we'll jump our Pussycat so we gain more life off of the damage there. Right, get another cat, get another life. Our opponent is drawing off the top now. Just another natural order. It is. This is not so bad for us. It's going to be an Atraxa, which obviously can be bad for us. Alright, there's a whole bunch of nonsense over here. So we're going to see 2 Springheart and Antuco, so I can't take them both. Another natural order is a little bit scary. They could put a Springheart and Antuco on the Atraxa and make copies just to draw cards, like dig through their deck and get whatever they want. That's pretty solid. So they kept Elvish Reclaimer, so got rid of all the other creatures. They kept the Windswept Teeth that they've now played. Get Natural Order, and Once Upon a Time. So now they're making little tokens. We'd quite like to find another Swords to Plowshares. We couldn't find any in the Dreadnought matchup in round 1, but now I hope we can find some here. We've already had 2 though, so... Right, there's a Reclaimer. Not a very helpful one. I think our opponent just Natural Orders us out now. I haven't done the maths, but... We're getting close to having a City's Blessing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I haven't done the maths here, but I'm pretty sure a land kills us. Feels like a land kills us here. Once Upon a Time. Yep. So they're going to make 2 tokens, and then they're going to natural order us. I haven't done the maths. That's on our opponent to do. Should be pretty lethal, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 times 6 is a big number. And that's like, what? 42 plus the 7... is 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58 damage. And we can block 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So we are very dead to this natural order. Unless our opponent has drawn the Crate Hoof. In which case, maybe we get to play Magic for a little bit longer. Alright, we don't get to play Magic for a little bit longer. We were very unfortunate that our opponent was hellbent and immediately drew another natural order. But yeah, so this is going to be like all the damages in the world. We're not beating that. Okay, So once again, I would like some more removal, but this time we're actually going to board in something else. We've got some Containment Priests over there. I think the Geists aren't great. The Ajani looks better. All right. I think this probably is all right for where we're at. We could play Harbinger of the Seas. It stops Cradle, and like some of their techie lands, but for the most part, they're just going to be able to go through it anyway. Lavinia can sometimes stop them from playing some things. I think Ajani is actually not terrible in this matchup, though. I think we're going to keep like we've got it here. We were pretty close there. If our opponent blanked for like 2 turns, like if they drew basically anything other than natural orders for a few turns, then I think we win. So pretty close. This is not really a matchup where Abiding Grace is going to help, because it's not going to be that grindy that often. Ocelot does stuff. All right, we can go Ocelot into Containment Priest. Do like Containment Priest. Tundra, it's cat time. There's a card that I really used to love back in the day in Standard was White Sun Zenith. I used to play like red-white control decks, with, like just loads of removal and just dump a load of cats into play. And I played mono-white cats for a while as well. Thing is, everybody wants to be a cat. This isn't the turn that our opponent natural orders, so I think this is a good spot to fire off a Guide of Souls here. We can do that post-combat though. Like once we get the engine up and running, I think we're okay here. So if they play a Cradle, that's 1, 2, 3 mana. So I think we are okay playing this turn. And then next turn we hold up the Containment Priest. Alright. Starting to generate some energy. I really don't want to get Wastelanded here. Alright, that's not a Wasteland. White of the Reliquary. That can be a Wasteland. Makes it a little bit tricky to attack here. So, we could just hold up the Containment Priest, but then we're just going to start getting killed by Wastelands. Or we could Brainstorm looking for any white source and still have the Containment Priest. That is a little bit of a risky line, because maybe we don't find it. Maybe we're supposed to use the Ponder because that sees more cards. But we do need to keep making land drops here. Feels awkward. Don't fail me, deck. Deck. What are you doing to me, deck? Any order and shuffle now. Like, that was definitely one of the risks there. But we found the 1 land in our deck. Well, no, there's 2 lands because we also have... No, there's four lands, in fact, that would have been bad to find there. But, okay, so now what are we doing? Losing, I imagine. Maybe that was a little bit loose. Can't really attack with our 1-1 into their 2-2. Just getting natural ordered here. Our opponent could just wasteland us out of the game. The lands will come in untapped. Sorry, will come in tapped off of the white, so we'll have a little bit longer. But if they just go and get like a Traxxer here. Yeah. Ugh. Oh, I hate this so much. We could have avoided this. We tried to reach too high and were punished. Statistically speaking, we should have been okay. But maybe that was still loose there. Oh, yikes. That was a sad one. Yeah, so everyone's got a whole bunch of stuff now, and we'd probably just lose the game here. I guess we find a plow. That starts us getting back into this game. But yeah, we took the high risk, high reward line, and we were punished quite severely for that. Yep, goodbye Ocelot. Yikes. Yep, and now they got a nice Vigilance attacker. This game is all gone completely askew. And it was entirely avoidable. We got a little greedy there. Okay. I'm going to cast a Brainstorm. So the Dazes might have some use. The ending definitely has a use. I don't think we want both of these Dazes. We need the land. Kind of want the frog, but I don't think this is about the frog anymore. But we will need a threat at some point. Right. This has gone very poorly for us based on one decision. I did go make that decision knowing that that was the exact thing that could happen. This isn't any order in shuffle. Force of Will. Okay, I don't hate that. We're going to waste our opponent to make their to make our days potentially more effective. But we're going to have a pretty rough time. So they got a Green Sun Zenith over there. Reclaimer. Yep. Another Reclaimer. Is this one I care about? I think we probably just want to get paid for a Daze here. Oh, a Cradle. Now we have no blue card with our Force of Will. Okay. Our opponent probably has the Talon Gates as well. So they can search their library to phase their guy out. Yeah, we just absolutely cooked based on that one decision. I think we'll soak up a little bit of damage here. So we probably need to plow in our opponent's turn so this doesn't at least attack us. But it's all pretty awkward. Let's plow this now. If they phase it out, then they don't get anything exciting here. I'm just going to copy the Attractor. Yeah, I think we skip this one up. Yeah, we got greedy with our Containment Priest. We tried to ponder into a land, and we could have just completely... Well, to be fair, our hand still needed a little bit of help, but we would have obviously been in a far better spot if we'd have just taken the safe, easy play there. Alright, that was unfortunate for us. I figured like maybe we can also find like a counter spell, so if it goes horribly wrong, we at least can deal with their natural order that way. But that didn't happen, so we kind of got absolutely ruined there. And that's on me, I would say. We should have just taken the safe play of the Containment Priest. I was just a little bit worried about Wastelands. These decks tend not to run that many Wastelands, maybe like 1 or 2. Alright, let's go to the 4th round. Alright, we've got some lands and spells, we've got a little curve. Got a little safety valve in our little plow and our little force here. We have a choice about the lands we fetch here. Dark Ritual. And Entomb. Is this the one we counterspell? I think it probably is. It means they got another Entomb. We're in trouble. Get out of here. Geist. Got another Entomb and we're done. Alright. 2 for 2 there. This means I'm very happy to go and get a Tundra because our opponent is not going to be messing with our lands. Because they are on some kind of fast reanimator deck. So we can play Tamiyo, curve it right into Psychic Frog with a Daze to get us through hopefully another turn. A Lotus Petal. Daze might not be getting us through a turn. Alright, didn't have anything there. Alright, let's attack with our Tamiyo. I think given our opponent didn't do anything last turn with the mana they have, I would rather just get a Frog into play and then sit on that this turn rather than pondering for a little bit more interaction. Because if we don't play the Fog this turn, then when are we going to be getting the cards out of it, right? The more quicker we get the cards out of it, the better it is for us. Alright, Force of Will is the exact sort of thing we're after here. Do I want to discard the second Frog? No, I don't think so. I think we'll just play out the second Frog here. We've got a Force of Will and a Daze available. Okay, I think we are in an incredibly commanding position. So the Tamiyo will flip next turn. We've got a couple of clues that we could do stuff with. Does our opponent have Surveil lands? No. That does kind of indicate they're on a much faster build, as does the Petal and Dark Ritual. And Entomb. Pitch this Daze that is not going anywhere. Alright, our opponent's had enough. Graveyard Hate, please. Surgical Extractions, in. Containment Priests, in. Celestial Purge, in. Flusterstorm, probably good here. Prismatic Ending, not so much. Obviously, we're going to get rid of these Geists. We've been getting rid of them a lot because they're bad. And nothing's changed. Ajani is probably the weakest card here. And that's probably fine. Lavinia is pretty reasonable here. We could play this over a Tamiyo, over a Ponder, something like that. Let's trim one Tamiyo. We've got other one-drop creatures. Well, we're not keeping this one, so let's send it right back. Alright. We're sending it right back. Okay, this is a pretty serviceable hand. So we have 2 mana, which gets us to cast our Containment Priest. We have a Surgical Extraction. So 2 of these cards have got to go. So I think we get rid of the Frog, and then we either keep the Flusterstorm as a thing we can hold up, or we keep the Force of Will. I think it's probably the Flusterstorm because we need to find another blue card. We're already down on cards, so we'll try it like this. Verdant Catacombs. And they go in on turn 1. A Grief. Understood. We're probably dead. And I get to know what hate pieces we have. But if they're just on like a Grief line, then we can come back from that. But if they're griefing to pave the way for something spooky like an Entomb Reanimate plan, then... Alright. We've still got this Surgical Extraction, and we've got this Flusterstorm. Our opponent knows about the Flusterstorm, so it's going to be harder for them to walk straight into it. But they might just have to offer up something to it at some point. Alright, got a second land. I believe, because we already have a land that doesn't cast Frog, We're just going to get the Meticulous Archive and try and dig our way into something better. Our opponents had opportunities to entomb already, so I don't think they have an entomb. Psychic Frog. Do I want to put this in the graveyard so our opponent can reanimate it? I do need a threat at some point, but we need a land on top of this. I think we're just putting this in the graveyard for now. We could draw a white creature to pressure with. Look at that. We drew a white creature to pressure with. Now, is it the best white creature I've ever seen? No. But it can do some work for us. Shoulder's Edict. Sure, that's not what our counterspells are for. They're just trying to bait out a counterspell there. Like, we've got more threats in our deck. We'll find them eventually. You just need to make sure our opponent doesn't just end the game with some massive yacht. So show and tell something. A Barrowgoyf. We have an answer to that, so that's fine. Snap this off right away. Like, as soon as that hits you once, they're starting to get card advantage. They're always going to be hitting it. And this way we save up more mana. We don't like a Wasteland in play to restrict what our opponent can play. Considering they're showing us like fair 3-drop creatures, I think I'm okay with taking out their Underground Sea. It doesn't really help us cast any spells on our deck at this point. Alright. We've taken our opponent away from a hard cast Grief, which is something. A Brainstorm. I like a Brainstorm. But I think we have to hold and do it in our opponent's turn because of the Flusterstorm. Yeah, the Flusterstorm is a thing we might want to fire off. So we need to hold the Brainstorm. I thought Seize. Not a big lover of that one, if I'm being honest. I think my Brainstorm response. I flash in a Bowmaster, that'd be savage. How much? Okay. So I think we float the plow on top so we can kill whatever they bring back. I think that's a given. If we keep... So they're going to take the Surgical Extraction. But if we keep these 3 blue cards in hand, they might not be able to break it up. Is that better? So if they take the Daze, we can Force of Will. They take the Flusterstorm, we can Force of Will. They take the Force of Will, we can Daze. So that stops some of their potential lines. And then we just float this plow on top. Now, is this going to be enough to get us through this turn? Depends what removal spell, what reanimation spells our opponent's trying to do. But if they entomb reanimate for a big scary guy, then we don't care about that. A Dark Ritual here. Okay, is this just hard casting a Grief? An opposition agent. Yeah, that's fine. Our opponent's hellbent now. We've got a removal spell for this if we need it. We can take the damage and see if we need to plow something else. Like if they draw a Barrowgoyf, I think I'd rather hit that at this point. Use our lifestyle as a resource. Hold up this Flusterstorm as well in case we need to use that for something. Do we even need to plow this turn? Probably not. We can do it next turn. Some graveyard hate over there. Now we need to find a way to win this game. But it doesn't feel like we're losing this game. Cast Plow. This gives us more Storm for Flusterstorm. A Dark Ritual. It's going to be a Grief. Can't really answer a Grief. I think we Fluster this. We don't have an immediate answer for the Grief. Or if they've got something bigger like a Shouldered, we definitely... Because they would have enough mana to play around our Daze. And I'd rather they didn't do that. Still got some graveyard hate. Maybe we can find a creature. That'd be fun. Flooded Strand. That allows us to play a Psychic Frog at some point, which can certainly win the game for us if we can find one. We have no other Surveil lands. There's no point cracking this. Also, our opponent has opposition agent, so we maybe need to be careful about when we crack it. I'd rather not have to waste like a good spell to stop an opposition agent. A Psychic Frog. If our opponent has exactly Dark Ritual opposition agent, they can get us here. Alright, they didn't have that. So we have to Force of Will this, because it is a very powerful creature. So our opponent should know the last card in our hand is the Surgical Extraction here. Ponder. So if we ponder using our Meticulous Archive, we can't cast a frog, so we may as well use our Black Source. Some kind of guy or a Daze if we're feeling a bit timid. I think... Is this even good enough? Like they've got a 4-drop in hand they want to cast. So this does make me want to keep the Daze available. It's kind of a bit weak though. But our opponent clearly has a 4-drop they're trying to play around a Daze earlier. But now we've used the Daze, they might not do that. So they might just play a land, play the 4-drop. Alright. Not playing it. I wonder. The other option is that they were just fishing when it came to the Dark Ritual to see if they could get something out of us. Right, now I'm going to draw a Tundra. We're going to leave this in hand in case we draw a Brainstorm. But we finally get to start attacking. If our opponent has an opposition agent, that's going to be sad for us. But we do need to actually pressure our opponent here. Because we can turn off reanimates that way. That's good. And Orcish Bowmasters. Yeah, that's annoying. Our 1/1 first strikes are pretty good against the old Orcish Bowmasters at least. Well, they're good against them whilst they're in play. But an Orcish Bowmaster in hand is obviously very good against a 1/1. Right, cycling a troll. Definitely no Surveil lands in our opponent's deck. So now they're going to continue pecking away at us for one a turn. But if we can find like a Tamiyo, we can start pulling ahead. If we can find a frog, we can do some stuff. We can just find this Daze that doesn't help. That's also a card that is in our deck, I suppose. Game's gone weird. Dazzling Voidwalk. We can double Daze, that doesn't stop it coming to play. Yep, I think our opponent's just going to have us here because we're just not really getting anywhere. Cantrips have become somewhat awkward as well. Of course we draw on. So this is one of those situations where you do have to just ponder into it. As bad as that looks. Ocelot Pride, Swords to Plowshares. I like both of these cards. Don't like the Wasteland very much. So between these two cards we can keep these two things at bay. Put this on the bottom, then the Ocelot for next turn, and the Plow for now. I think we plow this Dazzling Voidwalker now before they have an option of casting that Ponder. And we pass. Our opponent's deck definitely has Reanimates in, but I doubt it has Animate Deads in post-board, considering what they've shown us so far. A Grief, you say? I would like to counterspell this, returning our Meticulous Archive, please. I'd like to counter this, returning our Underground Sea. Not an incredible exchange, but it's fine. That creature is a nice 2-for-1. Right, so we play the Ocelot Pride here. Then we play the Meticulous Archive, and we've got Tundra on top, right? No, it's the Wasteland on top. Alright, we still put that into the graveyard. So now we've blanked some of their things. Now they just have Orcish Bowmasters here. That's obviously going to be terrible for us. Attacks are pretty awkward for our opponent. Buys us enough time to draw something. Sure, you can have another Grief. Here's a good card. We'll lose this Surgical Extraction. Now we could have used that, but I think the 2 life at this point is too high of a price. A Daze, you say? Not a fan of that. We don't play out another land, but I think having 3 lands in play is acceptable because that gives us access to the frog with the black mana. And if we can find a frog, we can block and kill the Grief. If we find another Ocelot, we can block and kill the Grief. But we don't have a lot of time for that to work. And cantrips are very bad because it's not just that they get to ping, but they get to ping our only blocker. Psychic Frog. That was one of the cards I wanted to draw. Alright, so our plan is double block the Grief, pump the frog. Frog lives. Grief dies. We have a frog. A Brazen Borrower, you say? Yeah, that's pretty bad. They're going to play the Borrower as well, and that's just us dead, right? Yeah. Okay, let's go to game 3. Our opponent definitely went for a more fair game plan there. But the only thing that we could do differently is have a March of Otherworldly Light in. But we've already got these Celestial Purges in. Maybe I like a Tamiyo slightly more than a Ponder here. If we want this March of Otherworldly Light, something's got to give. Is it Lavinia? Like, we've already seen them doing some stuff that is relevant for Lavinia. It's probably fine. Do I need this other removal spell? We've already got 6 solid removal spells in here. We could bring back in the Pending to deal with some of their little guys. So we could bring both of these back in. If we just take out a couple more. Something like this. What was our blue count like? 19. That's... Oh, and we also got the frogs as well. Yeah, I should put it all in a pile and check. Oh, 23. Loads of blue cards. Okay. We don't really need these Wastelands. We could sub out Wastelands for Ponders, actually. Don't mind that. Like, we could have some Ajani just so we have some pressure. But, alright. I like this hand. I think we just start off on the Tamiyo and just start working up some extra cards here. Just get the thing that gives us card advantage in play. So if we get griefed or whatever, we at least have a way of recouping that lost cards. Our opponent's gone to 5 so far. Let's get our card advantage engine in play. And we'll pass. Verdant Catacombs. I got a swamp. A Thought Seize. Do I want our opponent to Thought Seize us? Not particularly. Send him a message. Another Tamiyo isn't where it's at here, is it? So if we want to cast this Guide of Souls, which I think we do, we have to go and get a Tundra here. We can get Plains, but again, I don't think it matters too much. I think we just get the Tundra and have better mana moving forward. Play a little friend. Let's crack in with the guide. And then I'm just happy to draw cards off this Tamiyo every turn. A Dark Ritual. This is just a hard cast grief. Creation of Avacyn. Alright. That's a fun one, isn't it? So they search their library for a creature card. Well, they search their library for a card, exile it face down, then shuffle. Next turn, they flip it up. If it's a creature card, they lose life equal to it. And then the third turn, they get it in their hand. Sorry, they get it in their hand or in the battlefield if it's a creature. So, could be something to worry about in the near future. Doesn't really matter if we draw the card now, although our opponent doesn't have Orcish Bowmasters available, so we'll draw it now. Alright, Ponder, that can try and help us find an answer. But we're not really... I guess we have Celestial Purge, isn't it? It's the one we have that answers this Creation of Avacyn. But we get to see what they're getting here. An Entomb, we don't care about that one. An Archon of Cruelty. What is the face-up card over here? It is an Atraxa. Understood. Shallow Grave. Let's say no to that Archon of Cruelty. Got another one. Got Barragoyf in hand. What else they got here? Decent chunk of stuff. Pretty much everything you'd expect, really. Okay. So I think if we can just find the Celestial Purge for this Creation of Avacyn, we'll be alright. And Wasteland. That's not unhelpful. It stops the Barragoyf, but... Ponder. None of these help that much. Like, we can plow the Atraxa, but they're going to get another spin of the wheel. I quite like this Force of Will in hand, so I think we'll put the plow on top. We'll take it out of their land. Might make it hard for them to deploy the things they're getting off of the Creation of Avacyn. I'm not going to spend a Tamiyo just to get an energy here. So we've got a plow on top that answers the Atraxa. The Barragoyf could come into play next turn. Right, let's see how bad it is for us. 2 Lotus Petals, so they only get one of those. 2 Thoughtseize, so they're going to get one of those maximum. Alright. Right, so take the Underground Sea, the Grief, the Entomb, the Lotus Petal, and the Animate Dead. And the Thoughtseize. So didn't take the Dark Ritual. Pretty full grip there. Now we do have the answer to the Atraxa at the very least. I should have checked better for big monsters in their deck. Do I want to Force of Will this? Not really. We lose the Force. There's the Entomb. Can't remember if they had any other big monsters. Not that it really impacts the way we would have played there. They do have a Grizzlebrand. Okay. And they can animate dead the Grizzlebrand right now. They can draw some more cards if they want to. Put some low life total wise, but... So now we're in this horrible spot where if we plow the Grizzlebrand, we still have to deal with this Atraxa. If we plow the Atraxa, we still have to deal with this Grizzlebrand, but they have more life to draw more cards with. Top of our library is just a plow. Is that enough to beat what our opponent has here? I don't think it is. Can't remember what we left on top either. Let's play this Meticulous Archive. It was a Brainstorm. I could flip our Tamiyo, maybe find some other stuff. We could do like a play where we flip the Tamiyo after it's blocked, so their creature is blocked and doesn't deal damage. I have 2 lifelink creatures. Like in play, the Grizzlebrand is a better creature. The Atraxa having Vigilance is certainly annoying as well. But if we plow the Atraxa, they do just get a bunch more cards. Oh, thanks, I hate it. Right, I'll take 7, then next turn we can do the little trick that we discussed. Like, our opponent has a whole bunch of nonsense over there. What is that? A Grief? Sure, why not? Dark Ritual, we're going to see a Barragoyf. What is that extra 1 mana up for? God, that's a big Barragoyf, isn't it? Is that 6? So, they put us to 1 on this attack. Okay. This game is still winnable, it just doesn't feel like it. Thoughtseize. So this kind of scuppers our little plan here. So let's Brainstorm into our opponent's Orcish Bowmasters. No. Alright, we are dead here. Yeah, so the problem we had in game 2 for a bit is the threats in our deck are really bad. Like, we've got like just 1 mana, 1 power guys. Now, they snowball and have synergy together, but you need to have the cards to have the synergy. And we didn't have that. And we didn't have enough time to like we had loads of time, but we couldn't leverage them because our creatures were bad when we did have them. And then this game, our opponent just had enough stuff to punch through, and that's going to happen sometimes. All right. 1 round to go. We are currently a 1-3, so not a great record, but let's see if we can put the 2-3 on the board. Island Ponder Keep, I guess. Hedge Maze from our opponent. My Nadu sense is tingling over there. We could just Wasteland them and just keep playing that game, rather than exposing ourselves to an enemy Wasteland. I'm down for that. Means that we'll have more information about what we're trying to ponder for. Trop. What you got? A ponder. Just send it back. I didn't shuffle off of that. Just keep it going. We now have a 1-drop that we can deploy as a threat. Tundra from our opponent. Do I want to deploy a threat into our opponent's potential restores to Plowshares? That is a very good question. I think the answer to that is no, I do not want to do that. I think I'd rather ponder. Okay. We have a good threat there. I think we bury the land and we'll shuffle that away next turn. Unless we need to have the land and we can just draw through it. Alright, our opponent's on the Wasteland plan. Alright, so much of our own medicine. You stifle me. Alright, let's play this guy, because I don't care if this is what eats the plow and we actually have a real threat in the frog. Alright. I have to imagine that means our opponent's got more removal. I don't think the Ocelot is worth a removal spell on its own. Especially if you're not doing anything on a second turn, but maybe they want to play like a Doorkeeper Thrall or something. I don't really want to play into a Daze here. Let me just play out the Guide of Souls. And then we Brainstorm in our opponent's turn. Possibly in response to something if we were looking for an answer. So our opponent can flash in something if they wanted to. Our opponent's got a Brainstorm. Do I think our opponent is playing more than 3 colours? With Wastelands, it's doable, but it's a little sketch. Because that means, are we looking for a Bowmasters that could come and wreck our day or not? I think I'm going to fire off this Brainstorm in a turn. So if they fetch a Black Source and have a Bowmasters, then fine, they've got us. Xander's Lounge. And they're fetching around Stifle. They do have black mana though. And Savannah. A Leyline Binding on our Guide of Souls. Sure, we're about to play a real card, so joke's on you. Don't mind having the Wasteland. I don't think having double Daze is really where I need to be right now. But we're probably not playing that guy next turn anyway. Now, let me just play out the frog here. This might be a matchup where Geist isn't the worst. I don't believe our opponent's got Dazes. They've got a Force of Will. I think we're just going to let this go and try and play the Geist with Daze back up. Hopefully our opponent doesn't play anything so egregious we need to double Daze it. An Uro. Is that worth a Daze? Trading 1 for 1 on cards. I don't like it, but I'll take it. Alright, guys of St. Traft. It's been a long time since you were a good card. Let's see if you can get back some of that old glory you used to have. Alright, we're in with it. So if they find the land, they can play the Uro. It has to be a green mana. Psychic Frog. We have a plow for that. And we have a Wasteland to keep them off of Uro mana. They have a Wasteland. They're going to hit our Wasteland. Or they're going to hit our White Source. They're going to hit our White Source. Yeah, that's annoying. They've got 1 card in hand. We found a White Source there. So we can kind of do it all here. Well, what are we brainstorming towards, right? We've already got a Daze, which is going to be better in a second anyway. We don't actually need to do any of these things. We can just hold the Brainstorm for a little bit longer. I guess we have to get planes here. Right, so we plow this. We waste the Savannah, so Uro is a long way off. Which makes our Daze pretty good. And now we're bashing for 6 a turn. Just like an Uro, but not as good as an Uro because we're not drawing bonus cards. An emergency, we can Brainstorm with something, but we might as well wait till next turn, have more cards, know what we're trying to move around. Sure, you can ponder. So I imagine our opponent is playing up the Beanstalk in this deck. Leyline Binding, Force of Will, might be a Murderous Cut or something in there as well. Murktide Regent. Alright, let's scooping it up. So we managed to get there. This is a matchup where Harbinger of the Seas looks pretty darn good to me. Lavinia stops Leyline Binding, so I like that one. Abiding Grace won't do anything here, which is not really a surprise. I actually think the Geist looks good in this matchup, as weird as that is. I don't think the Ajani looks very good, though. So that can get out of here. Consign to Memory can counterspell a Leyline Binding in a weird way. Because what you do is you hit the trigger of it, so they don't get a thing. How do I feel about Prismatic Ending? It answers Beanstalk. So does March Flats I've already liked. They can both answer Uro. Do I want 1 Surgical Extraction for Uros? Wastelands are excellent here as well. We want the Daze so we can stick like our 3-drops with backup. Like, is Ocelot Pride good? Like, it hasn't particularly impressed me in this shell today. Do I want this Surgical Extraction? Or are we just going to fight that with the Wastelands and Harbinger of the Seas? I think we're going to fight with Wastelands and Harbinger of the Seas. I think we'll go in. Oh, mana base. Let's mulligan you. Alright, this is okay. Which of these is probably our weakest card? Probably the... Is it the ending or the plow? It's one of these two. The ending does hit the beanstalk, so I think we're probably going to keep the ending. It's not as efficient, but it is more flexible. Our opponent might not be just jamming creatures all up in our business. I think this is a play on Ocelot Pride to soak up some removal, and then we play the Tamiyo when our opponent won't remove it. So our opponent is displaying what could quite clearly be a source to Plowshares here. Now they might just go for like Meticulous Archive type card if they've got one. Nope, they've gone for a green source. They're going to plow this. They're going to untap, and then they're going to beanstalk. And then we're going to try and pending their beanstalk. If they've got a force of will, and things start snowballing a little bit for them. Yep, the green mana off the savannah. That's why they fetched it. Here comes... Oh, it's a Life from the Loam. Oh, that's kind of okay. Like, not super okay, but... okay, I think we just get the frog down here. Black and blue. Let's get froggy with it. That is better than a Tamiyo because it actually draws you a card instead of giving you a thing that can draw a card later on in the game. And it also has power, it pressures. Right, we're going to see a removal spell. It's a plow. Sure. Right, cracking their Flooded Strand. Beanstalk. Yep, there it is. This is where things can snowball out of control. An Ocelot Pride. You are certainly a Magic the Gathering card that is in our deck. Let's take out the Beanstalk. Right, they've got a Force of Will. They pitched a Psychic Frog. That's not nothing, but we are probably, well, maybe 10 to 20% chance of winning this game now. Alright, they've milled over a Wasteland. They can just put us in the Wasteland lock here. If that's what they do here straight away, then I will skip. Because it's not worth my time, and it's certainly not worth your time as a watcher to just watch some clown here just losing slowly to Wasteland lock. Alright, there it is. Okay, don't want to do anything differently. I don't think so. I think we do want the plows for the Euro. We want the plows for Murktides. Just need to stick a Harbinger of the Seas and ruin our opponent's day. Being on the play is quite a big deal here. Makes our Dazes more powerful. Means that it's going to be a lot easier for us to stick a big threat when it's relevant. Island Ponder is fine. There's a lot of cantrips we're going to have to use here. Our opponent's mulligan to 6. Underground Sea. Go, Gadget Ponder. An Ocelot Pride is not an incredible threat. Our opponent is a Wasteland deck, so I will take the threat and like it, I guess. So we can play the Ocelot and then we can Ponder. Carpet Flowers. If our plan is Harbinger of the Seas, we don't really want this Carpet Flowers to resolve. It did not resolve. Excellent. So we've got Marsh Flats was on top. No, Flooded Strand. So this gets us the basic island. No, sorry, the basic plains. To play our Ocelot Pride. We didn't get to Ponder this turn, but that's fine. We want to have basics because we're trying to cast the Harbinger of the Seas. You're going to see a Beanstalk here. No. Sure. It's interesting timing on the plow. Right. We will cast a Ponder. We'll save a Brainstorm for our fetch land turn. Some spells we can't cast, eh? Don't really want all these Dazes, but we have a Brainstorm that we can use. Is the Tamiyo good enough, or is this just a shuffle? I think it's a shuffle, actually. I don't know if that counts as paying off or not. We'll wait and see. Like, I think Tamiyo is okay, but we're looking for our big haymakers. Our opponent's deck is just chock full of removal. We kind of need, like, our Shroudy guy in the Geist, or we want our Harbinger, which can just shut our opponent from playing the game. That is a Wasteland. Goodbye, land. So we can't Daze this, but we can... Not a fan of this. Guide of Souls. Let's cast the Guide of Souls. So we're probably getting an island off of this Misty Rainforest. We could Brainstorm on our opponent's end step and try and set up a Harbinger of the Seas if we can find one. We should find land and Harbinger of the Seas to make that happen, but that's reasonable. That's a Wasteland. That's less reasonable. I'm down to clown with this. We didn't find the things we wanted, but we did find the Ocelot Pride, which is not nothing. Is there any of these cards that we don't want right now? Because we can mill one with a Meticulous Archive. Not big on the plow right now. think I'll mill the plow away. Let's get a powerful Ocelot. Although, to be honest, in my experience in this particular league, I would not describe this card as particularly powerful. I don't think we have enough support for it. Obviously, this combo is nice when you can get it running. So if we keep plow for like something like a Murktide, that is a thing we can do. So if they mill, there'll be 3, 4, 5. So if they mill and they have a Murktide in hand, they can just deploy a Murktide. But where does this go for us? I think I will leave on top. All right, we're getting a guy. Wastelanding my Meticulous Archive. So we need to connect with our Ocelot Pride, which the Source of Plowshares can hopefully help us do. There's a Misty. What is it going to find? A black source. Hell no to this. If our opponent fights over it, then we can win we can beat it with a Prismatic Ending next turn. We can also plow it if we prefer. At this point, I'd rather use the ending on this. It's more mana efficient for future turns. All right. We get to make some more cats. And then we can start using our Guide of Souls to actually pump our creatures. And we're drawing a fresh one next turn as well. Like, this combo feels fine. You know, it's just 2 1-drops. Each of them are kind of terrible on their own unless you've got more stuff that goes with them in your deck. But I'll save my thoughts till the end, I think. Alright. This is an Uro. Can't plow on the way through, but we can plow on the way back. Unfortunately, it does give our opponent some more cards to work with. Maybe we are supposed to have the surgical in this. I just don't like having multiple surgicals. And I couldn't find a nice one to one single cut. Psychic Frog. Not helpful. Oh, they haven't been killing our Ocelot Pride. So maybe we just stack the Ocelot Pride high, because this makes it easier to connect with it in future. If we can get to the stage where we have the City's Blessing, then we're doing alright. Right, our opponent's going down to 8 to fetch our things. This is going to be... I don't know what it's going to be, actually. Like, if it was a removal spell, I think they probably just hit the Pride in combat. But they're going to get a boost of life from the Uro, which will buy them another turn. Alright, so our opponent's turn. Almost certainly going to see an Uro enter play this turn. But we're going to plow it with its trigger on the stack, so they can't draw the card and use it to preserve their Uro. Blue, blue, green, green. Yeah. If we have Force of Will blue card in hand, we basically just lose, but it is what it is sometimes. Let's plow. A Brainstorm. Like, if this Uro dies, it might not be the end of the world for them, but it's certainly going to be an awkward one. Now, we're going up to, what, 14 here? That's a 2-turn clock. I suppose it doesn't actually change the clock, because we were on a 2-turn clock anyway, because we could only deal them 7, right? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right, it's gone. No Uro allowed. Oh, sorry, they gained the 3 from the Uro as well, so they're on a much higher life total. So they're going to put a plow on top of their library. Oh no, it's a Brainstorm. Interesting. I thought you'd gone for the plow there. I guess they know the top cards of their library as well. A Force of Will. That is going to come in handy, I would imagine. We're so close to the City's Blessing. Alright, got another guy, got another bit of life. We've got a big life total for our opponent to work through. Right, so they put the Brainstorm on top and then milled it with the life from alone. Curious choice. I guess they wanted to just have the options and they were going to play Mystic Sanctuary anyway. Misclicked. GG's. Yeah, like our opponent milling that over, they've just said it was a misclick and they didn't mean to click it through and they just wanted to get that Brainstorm. But I think with the Force of Will blue card, we're probably alright. So we finished with a 2-3. 2 of the rounds we lost, we did split 1-2. So that's something. But I've got some thoughts about this deck, so let's go right to it. So, firstly, I don't think we necessarily need to be a 62 card deck, and this Ajani card didn't feel great. Like, I understand what it's doing, like, it can do some pretty cool stuff with this, but we're trying to get some synergy here, but in Legacy, it's so hard to get your creature to die. We don't have a way of, like, putting our own creature in the bin. It just doesn't feel like this card is flipping very often. So I agree with the original deck creator who said that this card was bad in this deck. And they also said the Geist was bad. We actually found a home for it a couple of times against... we had against the control deck. It was quite nice. And then there was the Stoneblade deck where it was okay as well. So this was fine. Like, it's not a great card by any stretch of the imagination these days. But it gave a reasonable counter for itself, and at least it was blue, so it pitched a Force of Will. But the thing that you really want to hear about is this package of cards here. So the Guide of Souls and the Ocelot Pride, when they were together, they felt okay. It felt like we were playing Bitter Blossom that didn't fly. That's kind of how it felt. And obviously when you get to a certain point, it kind of explodes because it's, you get like double tokens if you have the City's Blessing. So that's pretty cool. And they stack if you have multiple Ocelots. But it just didn't feel like we had enough stuff. Like quite often we had the Guide of Souls and we weren't getting enough creatures to get any energy out of it. It wasn't doing anything. And then we had the Ocelot Pride on its own, which is a terrible card on its own. And it just felt like there wasn't enough support. We need more things to go around these two cards. We can't just be playing those. And like the Ajani certainly isn't the card that's the right one. I understand the Geist will say Traft because it makes a token, so it triggers your Guide of Souls. And your Ocelot will make copies of it if you've got the City's Blessing, but that's very win more, I think. But it just didn't feel like it was doing that much. We basically won the games off the back of Psychic Frog almost all the time. Like, we did win maybe 2 games off of these things, but it was basically Psychic Frog is really good. We win the game with Psychic Frog and just having good white removal. That was pretty much how the deck felt to me. I do think that these cards have a home. I just don't think this is the best place for it. I've already had some ideas about how we can actually support these cards and make them individually more powerful instead of what they are right now. We did have a little bit of trouble with our mana base here and there, but I think that's always going to happen when you're trying to play a relatively color-intensive blue-white deck. We don't have many colorless pips on cards, right? We've got the Ajani, the Geist, and basically these don't have it, so that's pretty much it. So we're playing a very color-intensive blue-white deck. And then we're also jamming in a black-blue card. So you're always going to get a little bit of stuff there. But obviously, the juice is very much worth the squeeze because this was easily the best card in our deck for the entire league, I would say. And I think pretty much every deck that you put Psychic Frog in, it's going to be the best card in the deck until it's banned from Legacy. Whether or not it gets banned this month or further on down the line, I don't know. But I cannot imagine seeing this card as a long-term staple in Legacy. It's just going to get hit at some point. It just feels so much better than every other creature you play, right? Anyway, Psychic Frog rant over. I wouldn't mind trimming another Wasteland for another land that taps for mana, potentially. But I think the first thing you want to do is strip these 4 out. That gives you at least 2 cards to play with. Maybe some more stuff that support this, so some kind of creature that does something. Like I understand the Ajani's trying to do that, but just didn't really feel good. I think we can definitely utilize these cards in a more powerful way. Apparently, the challenge that was recorded that happened today had another Ocelot Pride Guide of Souls deck in the top 2. So people are definitely messing around with this. I don't think this is the shell. I think the actual shell you want to play this in is Bant with Springheart and Tuco. That feels like a much better place. You start getting a bunch of triggers off of this. You're more reliably getting all your life gain and stuff, and you can probably find some like other stuff to do that will start gaining you some life, so you start making some Ocelot Pride stuff going on. It just feels like there's better options than what this particular build is doing, but it's pretty cool and fun, and you know, it's a build out of nowhere. I think the success of this deck largely comes down to the fact that Psychic Frog is good, and obviously we're playing the good blue-white spells. And the person piloting this deck is pretty good at Magic the Gathering, which is certainly going to help too. Sideboard-wise, I think the Abiding Grace is a bit cute, but I don't think there's enough stuff that makes me want to play this at the moment. But I understand why it's in there for those grinding matchups. 100 of Seas is just great. I think I just want more of this card. Whenever I have this card on my sideboard, I'm like, why do we not have more of this card? Because when it's good, it's like game over. So that's the sort of big high-impact card I like to have in my sideboards. Lavinia is obviously great too. Having 1 copy of her means it's not always the most reliable that you have her in the matchup. You still board it in and it's still going to show up sometimes. And, you know, everything else in here is pretty reasonable. And the Celestial Purge is a nice nod to how the format is right now. Just more answers to Psychic Frog. And, you know, it can kill Germ tokens, it can kill Greaves, Doughty Voidwalkers. You know, it does a reasonable amount of stuff. It kills all the things that people are reanimating, whether it's Grizzlebrand, Atraxa, or Archon of Cruelty. I think more people should be running Celestial Purges in white decks. I know there's a handful of people who've been championing it for a while, and it just makes sense. All right, I think we're done for today. I hope this was a nice, fun, and exciting, weird one for you. Apologies for the round that I punted, or the game I punted by not playing the... Well, it wasn't so much punted. I said, I could lose this game if I don't find a white mana source, and then I didn't. So we could have just played this against the Natural Order and used it as a counter spell when they put Natural Order on the stack, and we probably would have won that game, I would imagine. So that was on me. We should have just taken the safe line. But my issue with doing that was if we take the safe line and our opponent starts like in our lands, maybe we end up in a bit of trouble. But we should have just taken a safe line and got the Containment Priest. I got greedy. I said I was getting greedy at the time. If it worked out, I would have felt like a god, but that's not what happened. And there's a lesson there. Alright, thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe. It does help the channel out and doesn't cost you anything. I've now gone over 3,400 subscribers, I think, which is great. Thank you all so much for helping me do that. It does mean a lot to me that people love Legacy, because it is the best way to play Magic the Gathering, even if the format needs a little bit of help right now. Alright, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths, as well as 3 tiers of support. A low-cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed turbo depths guide that is updated every month, as well as regular articles, and lastly, the higher tier gives you all of the above, as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.